I was rung at home. I wasn't on call that night, but they rang me anyway. I was pretty shocked when I had a look at her. I mean, she just lost so much condition. She just looked dreadful. Just looked like somebody was dying. She didn't say much, you know. She just said, you know, I'm the difficult one who's come back again, and she had a smile on her face. And she was quite philosophical about the road she'd taken, but she wanted help then. At that stage, we just elected to go straight to theatre. The rectal cancer was removed, along with her ovaries, along with her uterus.
In Pen's situation, I mean, you know that there's very high risk that she was not going to survive. She was so underweight. She weighed in at 35, but, you know, 2 kilos of faecal matter. That's like operating on someone who's, you know, survived Auschwitz.
As soon as Penelope was taken to hospital, I just broke down and I yelled. I was stupid. How could I do this? How could I go along with this craziness? And I just remember, you know, hitting myself. Well, just being in a state of absolute disbelief that I went along with this charade and that I was a part of the charade. But you know what? Pen never blamed me for anything.
I think the following day when I went in, Penelope told me Francine was going to come in and visit her. I didn't want to start a scene next to Penelope's hospital bed. But when Francine got up to leave, I said that our family had a lot of questions that we wanted answered about Penelope's treatment, and I asked her to meet with us, which she refused to do. A few days later, Penelope told me that she'd had a phone call from Francine asking her to sign a waiver which would absolve her, Francine, from any responsibility. That phone call was an interesting turning point in Penelope's belief in Francine. I think the whole facade that had been created around Francine really started to crumble.
I knew she was just furious with Francine. She was going to be a miracle, and she just couldn't believe that she'd fallen for it. She said, oh, you know, we were just so arrogant to believe that I was any different to anyone else.
Dear Francine, I believed you when you said, now that you have chosen homeopathy, you know there is no turning back. It is you against the world.
Penelope wrote Francine a letter expressing her shock and dismay and disappointment at what had happened, but she never sent it.
Pen came out of hospital after several weeks. She then embarked on a course of chemotherapy and radiation treatment. She was looking, I thought, amazingly well. As 2004 progressed, she just looked so much stronger. She started to look like the Penelope that we used to know. She was looking really, really good. So towards probably the latter part of that year, I got a telephone call from Pen saying that she'd been down to have a chest X-ray. And she said her lungs were full of tiny metastases. I remember I was just so devastated by that information, because I really felt that she had recovered so well, that there was a possibility that she might survive. Peter was still making his special protein drinks for her right up until probably a couple of weeks before her death. Peter was also still telling her stories of people who, with amazing positive thinking, had spontaneous remissions of their cancer. I got the impression that Peter still thought that possibly that could happen if Pen was just positive enough. I've got to say, I just thought, shut up.
We got married. We got married about, I don't know, 3 or 4 days before Penelope passed away. Penelope always wanted to get married.
They had been talking about getting married for a long time, but they'd somehow or other, they'd never sort of got around to actually having a wedding ceremony.
We had a beautiful wedding under the circumstances, and everyone absolutely in tears, just not because Pen was suffering, but because finally we'd done this thing that we always wanted to. And then over the next 4 or 5 days, she slowly passed away.
It was in Pen's final weeks that I asked her again whether she wanted me to do something about Francine legally, and she said yes. And it was at that point that I felt that I had made a promise to her to do that. When Pen died, I'd only just started studying law, and so I didn't know anything about the coroner's court. It was a friend of Tony's that suggested the coroner.
Well, I'm just looking at this period from 6th of July.
Natalie had told me that they wanted the diaries and they wanted anything I had that I could give them so it could be given to the coroner's court. So I gave them everything.
Home today. I'm questioning everything. A bit of scepticism can save a life, I've learned. We wanted that period of time investigated. From the time that she was first showing symptoms of rectal cancer up until the time of emergency surgery. Pete, a rational scientist who would never allow the least student to conduct an experiment in the manner we did, playing with my life. Some people were sort of cautiously supportive, and others just looked at me in bemused, sort of rather bemused, and said, well, yeah, but it was your sister's choice, wasn't it? You know, why are you asking for an investigation? After Penelope's death, I had a phone call one evening from her close friend Jennifer. And Jennifer told me that she had a secret that she felt she had to share. She told me that, in fact, there had been a pact between Penelope, Peter and Francine Scrayen that Penelope would use homeopathy to cure her cancer along with Peter's support, and that there would be a book come out of this when Penelope was cured that would champion their efforts and their success in treating cancer with alternative methods. It was as if now suddenly the picture had become clear. All of that confusion I had about Peter's involvement, how he could go along and support this madness that was happening, suddenly made sense. I was stunned, but it was like a light bulb going on at the same time.
Right, okay, come on, we're going. I know, you want to go for a walk? Look, we're going for a walk. Just over 3 months after Penelope had passed away, I started a relationship. I hadn't gone out looking for a relationship.
Some of the friends were just wonderful. Other people took longer. People would, I feel, judge the fact that Pete and I, you know, had started a relationship.
Come on.
Pete, bless his cotton socks, he did tell me straight up But I just remember Peter taking me aside to say, I really need to tell you something, and I've met another woman, and, you know, she's really special, and I know, look, it's not that I've forgotten Pen, and so he went to, you know, some pains to let me know. But because it was so new, I mean, we were still grieving, and, yeah, I found it hard to handle that.
An impaired ability of the cells to metabolize fat is a key attribute. My life was chugging along, I had a fantastic relationship, and my career took off.
He's saying, hold on, I've got a lot of fat. I've got all these buckets and buckets of fat.
Penelope's biggest thing for me was to go out and do what I do.
It's not what you eat, it's what your liver pumps out.
Educate people about illness prevention. Get out there and tell people about, you know, diet, environment, attitude, lifestyle. Also taking control of your life.
Yeah, terrific stuff. Thank you, and I'll be back.
That's a pleasure. I'll see you soon.
I knew the coroner's court was a possibility, and I said, that's fine. I didn't have anything to hide or any problems.
We put in our submission in early 2007. We got a reply from the coroner's office in May saying that an inquiry had been granted. And we felt as if we had now at last really crossed the first major hurdle to getting some answers to what had happened.
And the initial impulse for the inquest came from our desire to look into Francine, and it had nothing to do with Peter. The coroner did enough sort of background research to say, well, this woman was doing this, but what was her partner doing? It's a natural question. And so he became a person of interest.
It was well and truly before the coronial inquiry that someone from the coroner's court said there was a test from Jennifer Kornberger, and it was pointing to me as going to write a book. I never knew about a book that I was supposed to be writing with Pen about her treatment until I read the testimonial. I had no concerns about it because I knew it wasn't true, and I thought come the inquest it wouldn't be a problem.